So how you doing, Sabu?
Doing well, Lanyaird.
Good, good. So last week we kind of talked about the adoption process and
Yeah.
how things were going. We actually talked about your father as well,
Yes.
that relationship. We also even touched on the the support that you were receiving from your mentor friends, and it just seems like things are moving in the right direction for you. So tell me, what do you want to talk about this week?
Uh, hmm. So I do have some good news.
Good.
So I found out after talking to some folks couple of days ago at the agency. They called us up, said, "Hey, things are moving pretty quickly, and by the way, we have some great news for you. You can come pick up your son in a couple of weeks."
Wow.
So my wife and I, were expecting possibly way closer to her to summer, but this has like been sped up so quickly.
Wow.
So 2 weeks from now, I will be in Korea, and actually 2 weeks from tomorrow, I'll probably be playing with my son.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
I am very happy for you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes.
For
Yes.
sure.
So, a few things.
Yeah.
We got a couple of different. We started out the whole session with your dad
Hmm.
and how he felt about the whole process. Have you been able to share this information with him yet?
Yeah, he knows. I did talk to my mom. My dad has been running around a little bit more than usual with the move.
Okay.
And in the middle of all that, he was telling me about some frustrations he had with putting furniture on Craigslist and getting ripped off, and so he's been really kind of out of it.
Okay.
But we talk once in a while.
Okay.
If it's okay, I want to bring up something that happened. This is before my last trip.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
So he called me, and I was in the middle of doing a whole bunch of paperwork.
Right.
This is right before you leave. You got to get a bunch of things notarized and all this. So I'm getting it done, and he calls me. He called me at a time where I'm like hectic and busy, and so he calls me and goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing all this paperwork and stuff." And so his initial reaction to that was like, "What is up with this stuff?"
You know, we talked about this last week.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
just saying, and so the reason I'm bringing it up is because I was like, where's this coming from, right?
Okay.
And so so that had a spillover effect for a
Okay.
little while for
Okay.
me, because
Gotcha.
he was okay, then he was not okay, then he was okay, and so I kept like, wait, what, you know? So we didn't talk for, I guess, about a week. And then
Okay.
even after I got back, we didn't talk right away.
Okay.
But I feel like he's getting better. But I think I told you, it's very slow,
Okay.
you know. And part of me just getting together with some of these other guys and some families has been like, can't control them,
Right.
you know. So that has been a good life lesson.
Well, I wanted to ask because we did talk about your father, and what do you think the underlying concern is with the adoption? We touched on it a little earlier in the session. I'm not really too much concerned. I guess, how does that make you feel, the fact that he continues to not be, as involved, and now he's asking, questions, or sending different types of innuendos?
Yeah.
What is that doing to you? How is that making you feel?
For one, I'm starting to connect the dots on a lot of other things that have happened.
Okay.
So, for example, when my sister got married,
Mm-hmm.
the guy she was going to marry, great guy, but the family had a very sketchy history.
Okay.
And like my brother-in-law's older brother, he was a messed up guy. He grew up in the church, but if you saw what his life looked like, you'd be like, there's no way that guy's a Christian.
Mm.
From promiscuity to corruption to just about every kind of scandal you can think of, you know? So I had a chance to talk to my dad a little bit about that.
Okay.
Because he was really gung-ho about my sister marrying this gentleman, but the family, he was like, I don't know, you know? And that came up with my other sister's family. It came up with multiple situations.
Okay.
And so what I'm learning is, like my dad, I think I told you, he made a clean break from a lot of the stuff that he was doing.
Okay.
And followed the Lord.
Gotcha.
And he feels as though when you make a commitment to the Lord, you got to be strong and you got to be gung-ho and you got to be all in. What I understood from him, I didn't hear these words, but just what I'm picking up is that when you connect with another family, when you connect with another individual, you don't know what their past is going to be like, right? And he hasn't come out and told me. He doesn't know the story of my son and what his background is. And remember I told you he had all these bad experiences with adoption?
Yes, absolutely.
Every one of them had not just a checkered past, but like even if they didn't, the story didn't turn out the way the family thought it was going to turn out.
Right.
So I would say that's sort of the pattern that I've picked up on.
Right.
And I've asked him questions like, of all the families that Jesus could have come into, why did he come through the lineage of Judah? Because Judah's history is really messed up. He was promiscuous, so were plenty of the other people in his lineage, and there's all sorts of drama. And he doesn't really have an answer, you know, so I don't know this whole idea, and it's not just him. I've talked to a few of his friends. They have this thinking that when you live as righteously as you possibly can, there's an expectation that your children and your children's children, they should all be that way.
Right.
And so I think that could be part of the reason why he's acting this way.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that we even talked about how you became frustrated with the question when you actually told him that you were going through the process of doing this paperwork, getting everything in order, and you made a comment how his frustration, you didn't understand why he was being frustrated when you were the one that was doing all the work.
Right.
And one of the questions was why did that upset you so much?
Yeah. Why did it upset me? So when I talked to him, I said to him that what were you or what are you willing to do for me?
Right.
Right. And so he said, I'll do anything. I said, okay. So I asked him, what makes you think I'm not willing to do anything for him? I said, the basic difference is that maybe you don't see him as a son. I do. You know, he might have come from a different biological mom or dad, but that is a transformation that has taken place over time, and we're still praying that that continues. Skin color doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Right? What's the famous line? Anyone can make a baby, but it takes a real man to be a father.
Yep.
So I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yep.
And so the frustration to me is, how can someone who believes in the gospel, the transforming power of the gospel, and preach about that, talk about that, live that, not see that this is a picture of the gospel in action? That's where the frustration comes from.
Got you. And so with that being said, how are you actually overcoming it? What besides your mentor friends, what other ways are you overcoming? Because this seems to be a pretty major thing for you.
Yeah, without a doubt it is, you know. So I think I've had to reevaluate where I'm at.
Gotcha.
And look at all the different roles, right? So I'm a husband, I'm a son, and I'm a soon-to-be a father. So with each of those comes a certain level of responsibility.
Okay.
And I'm coming to understand that fatherhood doesn't start the moment your son gets here. can start with this stuff way beforehand.
Mhm.
If I'm going to extend grace to my son when he messes up, what kind of a father would I be if I don't extend that kind of grace to my father who may be going through a prodigal moment of his own?
Mhm.
So just thinking about those kind of things has really, and I had to think about like some of the space that he gave me. I mean, I grew up in a very strict home and a strict background.
Okay.
But there are plenty of moments where I can look back and go, you know what, my dad was actually all right at some of these other things.
Got you.
And yeah, some stuff was bad, but the overwhelming majority of the stuff was good.
Yeah.
So I think just seeing that there isn't a balance, right? There isn't a balance between he was really bad, he was really good. No, he was off the charts good, but there's some bad,
Mhm.
just like anybody else. And so I think thinking about those things, talking to some folks, and just a lot of scripture reading and just soul searching and go, maybe my dad will come around.
Great.
Maybe he won't.
Mhm.
But if I don't at least give him that space to let him kind of figure it out on his own, and maybe we will be that adoption story that he knows about and go, I know a lot of bad ones, but at least my son's case or my son's family, they did it right.
Mm.
You
That's,
know.
that's great. Yeah. So, through what is your greatest takeaway through this because it appears that this chapter is about to come to an end. What do you see the next part of your life being? What is chapter 2 going to look like? What do you see? What kind of challenges do you see, and how are you preparing to deal with them?
I think over these next 6 months or so, I've been reading a lot about what the life of a child looks like after they arrive someplace.
Okay.
So some of the challenges include loss of language,
Okay.
change in environment, just adapting, sleep, all this stuff, right? So it seems like my time is going to be limited in what I can do.
Mm.
And even the time that I spend with my wife.
Mm.
So I think we're gonna have to be a little bit more deliberate about making sure. So good thing is, over the next about roughly 6 months, we've separated that out, no plans, nothing. We're gonna be by ourselves. Even introduction to family and friends is gonna be slow, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the mind of a child who comes over from a new place. So these are the challenges that we're anticipating. We've started prepping for it. So typically Indian families, they don't really do that. There's people coming in and out. It's like a flea market sometimes.
Mhm.
So we've had to communicate that information to a lot of people.
Okay.
My father-in-law, my mother-in-law, who also are living with us,
Okay.
we've explained that to them. We have a social worker who works alongside it with us, and told the social worker, hey, you have to be the bad guy here, and explain to them that, listen, the child is going to come running to you. You turn that child around and send it back to their parents, because it has to develop a relationship with the parents first, then the grandparents. Grandparents can spoil them all they want, but it has to be a slow, gradual process.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that stuff we have to navigate through.
That's good. You see,
Yeah.
with regards to the new addition to the family,
Yeah.
with regards to how your focus, it appeared to be your relationship, your father accepting. Would you think that there's now becoming an actual shift where the attention now is not necessarily so much focused on the relationship, but now it's being redirected towards this new addition that's coming into your
Oh yeah, I think there's no doubt it has to
Okay.
be. We still have to work on my relationship with my dad, but
Mhm.
it's not. I don't think it's broken.
right.
It's a work in progress.
Gotcha.
Right. But that doesn't mean I can't work. I mean, this relationship with my son, me, my wife, and my son. I mean, that's gotta be like. It's gotta be super tight, and it's gotta go. We need a good, strong foundation to press forward and do this.
Mhm.
And we will introduce him to my dad. And listen, I know my dad well enough to know he's a softie, and that the heart of the child will